The American people are, of course, impacted by rising prices of gas in some parts of the country, not all. As the economy is turning back on, we'd see some of these transitory effects. That's what's been predicted. That's what we have been planning for.
This administration guaranteed that holiday packages will arrive on time.
We are not the Postal Service or UPS or FedEx. We cannot guarantee.
Thank you also very much.
Can you tell parents that? You know what to do to lower gasoline prices? You can talk about worker safety before.
The UAE-Israel relationship has, I think it's fair to say, flourished. Israel opened an embassy in the UAE, the first it has ever had to a Gulf nation. In addition to these diplomatic strides, the people-to-people ties between the two countries are also thriving. We strongly support these historic steps, and we're committed to continue building on the efforts of the last administration to expand the circle of countries with normalized relations with Israel in the years ahead.
The president wants to make fundamental change in our economy, and he feels coming out of the pandemic is exactly the time to do that.
I know we keep asking you about this.
Yeah.
One, do you have any update, and can you address concerns about morale and stability at the agency since this is taking so long to get a nominee?
Have you heard there's morale and stability issues?
Yeah, there has been reporting that, just the lack of a permanent commissioner, people feel there is not stability there, the vaccine officials resigning. There has been reporting for a few months around concerns.
Well, I would just, to quote Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Nancy Pelosi again, an anecdote is not the basis of data. Don't have an update on the timing. I understand why you all are asking about that.
Tracking of transactions that is greater than $600 going to stay in the reconciliation
Yes.
bill? What do you say
Yes.
to Americans
Yes.
who are concerned
Yes.
about that?
Yes. Well, I mean, with all due respect, the plural of anecdote is not data. I've said that before here. Yes, there are concerns that some people have, but if people are breaking the law and not paying their taxes, one way to track them is through the banking measure. I think 600.
It sold 5 prints of his artworks for $75,000 each. I was hoping you could say if the White House knows who purchased the 5 prints and whether there is indeed a departure to the arrangement that there would be an anonymity here.
I know this is your favorite topic. It still is the purview of the gallerist. We still do not know and will not know who purchases any paintings, and the president remains proud of his son.
White House.
Did you have another question on something else? Otherwise, we're going to move on to some other topics. Lots going on in the world.
People ask me, if you ruled the world, what one thing would you do? I think about that a lot.
It would be interesting to get the facts on how much California has invested in Tesla. The hundreds of millions of dollars of tax subsidies we provided that company. Our regulatory environment helped create that company and grow that company.
What does the president say to Americans right now who are worried about those rising costs?
The president would say we take the commitment. He takes the commitment of lowering costs for the American people very seriously. Is that these inflation rises will be transitory, that they will come back down next year, and that one of the best things we can do is pass his agenda.
The Democratic candidate for governor in Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, says the president is unpopular today, unfortunately, here in Virginia, so we've got to plow through. Why do you think the president is unpopular in Virginia?
Well, just if you look at facts and the polling, the president is the most popular figure in Virginia of anyone currently running for president or any former recent president. So I just note that in terms of the data. But I would say that the president's agenda is incredibly popular. That's probably the reason why former Governor McAuliffe is also running on that agenda.
What do you make of these really terrible polls? Are they that he's doing something wrong?
Well, look, I would say that this is a really tough time in our country. We're still battling COVID, and a lot of people thought we'd be through it, including us.
Why people led on production at home with American companies and instead ask OPEC for more production where that production is perhaps not as environmentally regulated, rising gas prices?
Well, we are in touch. We are not a member of OPEC, as you all know. To go back to your original question is also that, well, we need to take steps to address short-term supply issues. We need to also keep our eye on the long term and the impact of the climate.
Today we saw another jobs report that fell well below expectations, the smallest jobs gains in nearly a year. Gas prices are at a 7-year high. Inflation is up. The president is struggling to get the rest of his Build Back Better agenda passed through Congress. How do you assess where things stand right now?
We certainly don't see things as darkly as you do. We are at a faster rate of economic growth, a lower rate of unemployment than in quite some time. That's progress.
Do you not see today's jobs report as a warning sign in any way that perhaps the economy is not headed in the right direction, that perhaps the recovery is not going at the pace that it should be?
I don't believe that's what economists are projecting.
Raising the debt limit is paying our old debts. There's nothing to do with new spending or what may be coming this year or other years. There's nothing to do with my plans on infrastructure or building back better, both of which are paid for, but they're not even in the queue right now. Last night I was on the television. I was on the telephone with a person at an emergency hospital ward. When you see headlines and reports of mass firings and hundreds of people losing their jobs, look at the bigger story. Ohio, Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania. The Illinois president Don Harmon.
This debt, without question, was accrued by members of both parties, including $8 trillion from the last administration, from the Trump administration.
Jobs up, wages up, unemployment down. That's progress. And may God protect our troops. Thank you very much.
What do you say to Americans who want them to go back to work, sir?
What is the White House's response to the fact that an ambassador nominee was at this event? And secondly, should we expect to see more people who seek jobs in this administration attending events like this in the future?
Well, to be clear, we've spoken to the arrangement that is run by the gallerist and Hunter Biden's representatives.
This is exactly what ethicists said they were worried about.
What is specifically?
The fact that the president's
That he
son
reportedly attended an event?
Well, the president's son would be selling artwork and then meeting potentially with people who would seek to buy it. If you have attendees at that event who might be seeking either jobs in this administration or favors from this administration, isn't it an awkward situation to put the president in?
Again, the gallerist has we've spoken to the specifics, what the gallerist has agreed to, and what recommendations were made. I've done that several times. I don't have additional details for it from here. I point you to them. Go ahead.
So does this White House not have any concerns about the photos that have emerged showing Hunter Biden at that gallery alongside prospective buyers?
I point you to the gallerist on specifics of the restrictions that were put in place.
Great, but what about the position of this White House? This is a president who ran on being transparent, and you've got...
And we were very transparent about what recommendations were made to the gallerist, and I would again point to them or the many times I've spoken about that from here.
Do you have any update on Afghanistan and how many Americans are still there? And does the president feel the Taliban's cooperating still with efforts to get those remaining Americans out?
We remain, through appropriate channels, of course, in touch with Taliban officials. In terms of the specific numbers, I'd point you to the State Department, and they have the most updated number on that, given they oversee that process.
This president's first love is foreign policy. So why doesn't he know about these things in real time?
Of course he knew about the French being displeased. Let me finish.
Literally had not been aware.
Peter, I would encourage you to ask John Kerry specifically about the context of his comments. He relies on his counsel, but that certainly is not what he was intending to convey. Go ahead.